Well, I'm excited to do a tune called On Green Dolphin Street. It's a great jazz standard that gets played by many, many people you might hear out working gigs all the time. With me to work through the tune today is my friend Andy LaVerne. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Scott.
How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. Thanks for coming on the show. This is another one of these tunes that I love doing on the show to kind of get this catalog together of all these standard tunes.
Yeah.
It's another tune found in the real book. It's
Absolutely.
Another tune that jazz players play all the time.
Yeah,
and I'm
it
sure
is.
you've played this a bazillion times.
Many times, and recorded it also.
Have
actually,
you?
Yeah.
What projects was it?
Actually, it's I think on a trio CD called Glass Ceiling that I did a few years ago.
Why don't you play just the melody, what our ears would recognize right off the bat, just to get a couple measures of it in so we know what we're talking about. Okay.
And then the second part
It goes
repeats
on
kind of the same thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And that is a tune. That's another one of those that maybe a lot of people have heard it and they just don't know the title of the tune.
Right.
Which a lot of these I think happen if you're not in there playing. You may not ever learn the title of the
And the
tune.
title of this tune, it's On Green Dolphin Street, or is it Green Dolphin Street? I guess I've heard it both ways, referred to as both ways.
Yeah, we were kind of researching. We think it's on Green Dolphin Street.
On
but
Green Dolphin Street.
If anyone has a big problem with that, don't email me. That's our disclaimer, right? So there you have it. Now this tune, traditionally, when you hear it, and who knows why, it was some recording we were chatting before we started taping, that we think it was probably Miles Davis that kind of had the seminal recording on this.
I think so.
But it starts out as a Latin for 4 measures,
Right.
and then it goes to swing.
Yeah.
Which is, we can't think of another tune or another standard that does that, that everyone tends to play that. And although in your final performance you're not going to do it exactly like that, give us a handle on what that is so it makes sense and what it sounds like. So this is all Latin.
It's actually 8 bars, I think.
It is 8, I guess, not 4. And then all of a sudden it starts swinging. Yeah. This is always the... Yeah, it goes on that way. And this is always the one you can tell whether your drummer's ever played a gig before in his life. It's just they know to do that. After 4 minutes, like, oh, no, wait. This one's an odd one. This one does both. So it's always the joke with that. But so going through the thing, something else I saw you doing at the very beginning, go through the first 4 or 5 chord changes the way you'd find it in a lead sheet, which is not the way you're playing.
Right.
So it kind of starts, it's in C.
C major. It's like C minor or E flat over C. And it's just really triads.
Yeah,
D over
that's
C,
a D to D flat to a C. Now,
major.
I think in the changes, when we were looking them up, originally, they don't have that pedal tone down there in the C. It really goes from, D, D sharp, C again, or D flat, D, C. But almost everyone tends to play that with that C in the pedal tone.
Right.
Which
and
is one way to do it.
I think that comes from Miles, actually.
That same recording, huh?
Yeah.
Now, you do a little twist on that, though. Instead of keeping the C in the bottom, you put a G down there.
Yeah.
Let's hear that
it
one.
sounds like...
Bop, and goes in. Just to hear the A, B there again, do the one with the C pedal tone. Yeah, okay. And again, by pedal tone, all we mean, just in case we threw that out, is same root, same bass note across multiple chords.
That's right.
Staying across them, okay. Now, when you're playing this, once you get into the solo section, if you're improvising on this tune, do you tend to keep doing the Latin, or get straight and then swing, or do you just go straight through? And
it depends on the context. I think if I'm playing in a trio or a larger group, then probably the Latin. But then after you play a couple of choruses, you probably just keep it swing.
They just keep working through until they get back to the head and play out that way.
But solo piano, I don't know. I don't feel that comfortable playing Latin solo by myself. I feel like I need a
extra
rhythm
hand.
section. Yeah.
Need another arm.
Another arm, or at least a drummer or something.
Right.
So yeah, maybe I can infer it a little bit, but basically swing if I'm playing solo piano on this.
Yeah, the form on this,
or even a ballad for that matter.
Well, that's true.
Or rubato.
You could do this. That's fine. I don't think I've ever heard this tune done rubato or done slowly that way, but it's pretty.
Yeah.
And especially with all the changes working over the pedal tone.
Right.
That's a nice kind of moody, mysterious sounding thing. Good call. Never thought about that. Form on this tune. There's no bridge. It's really just kind of an AA or kind of an A plus, whatever you want to call it.
A prime.
Little different. Just tag at the end of it.
Right.
That brings up this issue of what do you do to get in and out of a tune like this. But sometimes I think it's hard on these AA tunes, and then instead of a bridge where you do it, you clearly come back to the head, and then you da 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 da. We're out.
Yeah.
Some thoughts on endings?
Yeah. Well, this tune in particular, it's on that Miles record. I think they start with an intro, which is the last phrase of the tune, but then they repeat it 3 times.
It goes in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like to use that.
Okay, and so again, it's the last 2 or 3 measures of the tune?
Yeah, I think it's like the last 4 measures of the tune.
Okay, and play that, because that's what the melody does there, is ba
I
da
think so.
da da. And that's how it would normally just stop on the C. Okay, so you're doing that and just repeating. Now that's kind of a safe bet to do on a lot of tunes,
it
right?
It
you
is.
can always take the last couple, almost like the turnaround at the end of it.
Last 4 bars maybe, or last 8 bars.
Okay, and just play that, and then it'll lead you...
Leads you right back to the top.
Right back to the top.
Where you have to go anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good call.
And that could also be your ending as well.
Okay.
So you really don't have to, start mapping out all these different things to have a beginning and an end on a tune. Most of the information could be actually in the tune itself, and you just put one part here and one part here, like bookends.
Now, when you're doing it going out, explain that in detail. When you're going out on that thing, you would just play those 4 bars, but just repeat them once to kind of, I guess that is what you kind of call tag, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, doing it.
That's right.
And it is just playing those last 4 measures 2, 3 times.
Right.
Till you finally give everybody the look.
Yep, that's right.
And out you go, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What else would you do in this one? Now I'm going to get to the fact that this doesn't, in the first 4 measures, it's kind of modal, if you will, and then or 8, I guess first 8, and then the second 8, it starts swinging and doing more traditional 2/5s. Right. From an improvising by modal, I'm sorry I brought that up, that means that it's, what's the best description of that?
Scale.
Scalar, and plays across 1 or 2 chords, not chords jumping around like crazy.
That's right.
Do you try to think about your improvising differently between those 2 sections?
Yeah, I think I do. I probably, when it comes to the more 2/5 areas, the harmonic areas where the chords are moving more,
right,
I try to outline those chords a little bit more. But when you have more open space harmonically, you can think a little bit differently. You can think maybe more lyrically or take your time rhythmically.
Do something, if I can ask you, and this is always going to be taking 10 steps back for you. You put your mind back 30 years when you're starting all this. Play just like the first 3 or 4 measures, or I guess first 8 in the modal section, and just do some very simple improvising to give us an idea of what we're talking about.
Okay.
That those chords aren't hopping around like crazy in that section.
So over this pedal point on the G.
So these chords are just, the root's not changing, the chords are kind of, that's the modal section,
Right.
And then, so that's much more hopping around, following chord stuff.
Exactly, following the chord tones more.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably why so many people love improvising on this tune. It kind of gives you a chance to step back and forth between those things.
That's right.
As you're playing through the changes.
It's a good contrast, and that can be the architecture of your solo. You can let the tune sort of dictate the architecture of your solo.
Cool. All right. Well, listen, let's hear you play this one.
Okay.
I'd love to do it. This is On Green Dolphin Street. I'm sticking with the on, by the way.
Okay,
it's On Green Dolphin Street. Andy LaVerne. Yeah. Maybe I'm lucky and some of that will rub off my osmosis, huh?
Oh.
Thanks, man.
Sure,
It's
my
great
pleasure.
to hear.